Hey moms, it's Nikimi. Welcome to the channel and space for single moms navigating motherhood. And as always, we do not bash the baby daddies because, well, we are here now. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We talk about all things pertaining to single motherhood, and I am a huge advocate of mental health for single moms. So if you are a single mom looking for a community, please subscribe. Do not forget to hit the like button and leave me a comment at the end of the video. So mommies, I apologize, guys. I have been traveling, but I am back now in these YouTube streets. And today I want to talk about a topic that has been circling social media, and that is, should adult children living at the home contribute financially? And I wanted to provide my think piece on this. Now, the answer in short for me is yes, right? Now, it's going to be contingent upon what, where they are in life, right? Like, I wouldn't expect someone that just graduated high school, that's in college and not working, to pay a bill, right? But you do have some children that elected not to go to continue their education by going to college. They're, working, and they're basically just spending their money on them, and or they're saving. And I get it, right? Broadly speaking, especially in the Black community, we don't come from generational wealth, right? We're not in a financial position to pay for our children's education without any assistance from, financial aid or things like that, unless they get a scholarship. And or, we just were not able to save up a nest egg for them to hand over when they become adults, so that they can kind of go out into the world and not have to worry about money right away, right? Just broadly speaking, that's not prevalent in our community. But the reason why I think that working adult children in the household should contribute something is, for one, it teaches, responsibility, right? And it doesn't have to be a major bill, right? Like, I wouldn't expect for, your adult child living there that's relatively young to be paying the mortgage, but I think a certain amount is fair, because I look at the state of the economy, right? I look at, what's the job force going to look like in 20 years? Now college degrees do not hold value like they once did 20 years ago. I literally just saw a video of a woman that had been unemployed for nearly 2 years, and now she's a cashier at Chick-fil-A. And by the way, she has 2 degrees. So the job market right now is sketchy. Yeah. And so what do? And I've said it before on my channel, individualism has hurt America. It has really hurt us, because the plain fact of the matter is there are just not enough jobs that will pay well for everyone to go out and, live a good life. We're looking at close to $2,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment, that's decent, a decent size, right? What are the car notes looking like now? What, $800 for a compact car? Like, it's crazy, and this is why I teach healing as single mothers, but this, of course, applies all up, and bonding with your children. Because in other cultures, especially outside of the U.S., when everyone becomes an adult in the house, they don't just leave the nest right away. There's not a desire to do so, right? They kind of understand the value of family, and that the more heads that come together, the greater, their strength is just better, right? The more people that contribute, the faster and greater the outcome. And when we talk about generational wealth, I don't believe that a house will create necessarily generational wealth, but I do believe that having a family home that is paid off, right, So now all you have to kind of worry about are the utilities and the property taxes. Well, if you're splitting that amongst more people, then I believe that it kind of frees up, it shores up some of the financial space, right? It kind of frees you guys up to be able to kind of save a little bit more money. And, what are we doing in America really? You know what I mean? Like, you see so many people now that are struggling and that wish that they can go home, and maybe their home is not necessarily a safe space, which is why I talk about getting into therapy. Maybe all of this healing that we're talking about on social media, that the Most High is trying to get our attention, we need to start healing as families, because this every man for himself and may God be for us all is what has contributed to a lot of poverty as well. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to leave the nest because adulting looks like freedom, until you realize that the bills are a whole nother beast, right? So you've essentially traded one set of problems for another. You know what I mean? Like getting back to family. In other cultures, they believe in taking care of the elderly. What the heck is a nursing home? They're not doing that. Now, I get it. There are some parents that were abusive. There's always an anomaly, right? There's always the exceptions that disprove the rule. Not talking about that, right? But what is wrong with staying home until you are financially ready, to be out on your own? If you go off to college and you have student loans, stay home and, split the bills, and then that frees up some financial room for you to pay off your loans, early. I don't know. I just think that we've gotten it backwards here in the U.S. I'm sorry to say, that is just my opinion. I do think that parents also, right, once your children become adults, yes, my house, my rules, but I also think, we've got to kind of start to cut back on some of those rules to kind of give people the respect now as an adult, and the making them want to stay there, because if you've got 10 years left on your mortgage by the time your children are grown, well, you can pay that down an extra 5 to 7 years early if everyone's contributing, and then you guys can make it to where everyone will gain something if you guys were to sell the home and or keep it in the family. Hard times hit later on in life for some of us. It would be good to be able to go back and get yourself together and not worry about having a roof over your head. We're so anxious to get grown and go out and make other people rich, i.e., the apartment complexes, the card note people, all of these luxuries and stuff that they're selling us is this quote unquote American dream. Well, we're now seeing that it's floundering. It's sinking. You know what I mean? So is that a viable option? Like, is that a viable solution? Do we as Americans need to kind of get back to the root of family and sticking together and making those sacrifices for our individual illusion of freedom for the greater good? There's a greater cause at hand. Would that be better for us? Who says that a person has to leave as soon as they turn 18? And I get it. We're ready to get them out of the house so we can get back on with our lives and, kind of look after ourselves. We're ready to kind of get back to being us. Raising children is hard, but have we kind of looked at that all wrong? Are we looking at that through a distorted lens? I don't know. You guys tell me. That's my think piece on it. Like I said, in a perfect world, we will be able to fund our children's education, give them a lump sum of money to put down on a house so that, they're not automatically in debt. But that's just not the reality, broadly speaking, here in America. So what do? I think the more heads, the better, the greater contribution, the faster, and, better we can attain the goal here. I don't know. You guys share with me what you think. That's my think piece on it today. To my single mommies, you got this, mamas. I love you guys. Till next time. Bye.